Hey guys, welcome back to Clockwork Guitar with Dave. That's me. Coming to you again with another mode. This will be the last mode of the major scale. We have covered a regular natural major, which is Ionian. We have covered Mixolydian, which is major with a flatted 7. We've covered Lydian, which is major with a raised 4th. We've covered natural minor, Aeolian, the natural minor scale. And we have covered Dorian, natural minor with a raised 6th, as well as Phrygian, natural minor with a flatted 2nd. Today we're tackling Locrian, and, I need to talk about Locrian because it is a mode of the major scale. I'm a little bit hesitant to, simply because Locrian is kind of weird, in that its one chord is fundamentally diminished. So it's not the same as like one of the major modes or one of the minor modes where you have the tonic chord, or the chord built off the one tone of the mode, happens to be major or minor. In this case, it happens to be diminished. Why is that a problem? Well, it's a little bit weird because the diminished chord, or a diminished chord, has a fundamental tension to it, okay? It sounds like it wants to resolve someplace else, just in its nature. So if I take an E minor triad, for example. Okay. That sounds like it can be one. It's relatively solid, right? We can resolve to it. I can end a song on that and not feel like I have to go someplace else. Same thing with the major triad. And the reason for this sort of solid sound is that both of these triads have a relationship between the one of the note, the first tone of the chord, and the fifth tone of the chord. That is a perfect fifth, the interval of a perfect fifth. And that interval is fairly consonant, okay? It sounds fairly solid, like we could land on it. We don't feel like we need to be pulled in another direction. Diminished chords, on the other hand, don't have a perfect fifth between the 1 and the 5. They have a diminished fifth. That's why they're called diminished triads. So instead of this sound, we have this. Okay? The problem with this is that diminished chords sound like they want to go someplace else. They have a tension that wants to be resolved. Diminished, resolving to major. And so built into the chord itself is a tension that wants to pull you someplace else. That's why Locrian's a little bit tricky. Now, that's not to say that you can't write using the Locrian mode, but generally speaking, when somebody writes music, being strictly in the Locrian mode, they're kind of droning on single notes, and they're throwing that diminished fifth in there. I'll give you an example, because I programmed something, played something down, looped something, so I could play it over, or play over it melodically and let you know what the Locrian mode sounds like, but it just doesn't have a solid structure, because there's that fifth, that perfect fifth foundation to the one chord is not there, okay? So, with the Locrian mode, basically you are starting a major scale. You're taking the notes out of a major scale, but you're starting on the 7th tone, all right? So if I took C major, for example, and started on the 7th tone, which would be B natural, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. B would be the 7th tone of the scale. I use the exact same notes as C major, but I relate it back to B as my home. I'm playing in B Locrian, okay? Now, how does this actually relate to B minor or B major? Well, it's actually fairly similar to B Phrygian. The only difference is that we have a lowered fifth, right? So B Phrygian, well, let's talk about B minor first off. So here's B, natural minor. Whole step to 2, half step to 3, whole step to 4, whole step to 5, half step to 6, whole step to 7, whole step to 1. That's B natural minor. B Phrygian takes that exact same scale and lowers the second. All right. That's Phrygian. And if you want some more examples of the sound of Phrygian, go watch my Phrygian video. Locrian goes even one step further. So in addition to having the flatted second, it also has the lowered fifth, the diminished fifth, okay? So I start on B, half step to 2, whole step to 3, whole step to 4, half step to 5, whole step to 6, whole step to 7, whole step to 1. So we can't make a power chord off of it, right? Because there's no perfect fifth. 1, 5, 1 doesn't exist. You have to go the diminished fifth, okay? So how does that affect the chords we're going to use? Well, significantly. The chord most affected, obviously, as I've mentioned a couple of times now, is the one chord itself. The one chord itself is now diminished, which, like I said, you have to be very careful about, because a diminished chord in a mode is almost functionally unusable, because it has a tension to it that wants to pull someplace else, pull you out of the mode, pull you out of the sound, okay? The 2 chord, built on the flatted or the lowered second, will be major. The 3 chord will be minor. The 4 chord will also be minor. The 5 chord will be major, but remember that this is a 5 chord built on the lowered fifth. There's 1, there's 5. So I build a 5 chord off of that diminished fifth, it's major. The 6 chord, also major, and the 7th chord, minor. Okay. So how do we write using this thing? To be honest, the Locrian mode is not oftentimes used as a mode to write in, where the one chord is tonicized heavily and Locrian is being emphasized, like Dorian or Phrygian would be, because of the reasons I've already explained. The diminished fifth doesn't offer a stable one chord, okay? Locrian is honestly lots of times used as a scale to play over other chords, maybe in jazz. If you have a diminished chord or a half diminished 7th chord or something like that, you could play the Locrian mode over the top of that. As a compositional tool, it's not often used. Having said that, sometimes people actually do that. So I tried to put together a sound example, a chord progression in E Locrian. Okay? So E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E. Okay. And here is the chord progression that I put together to play over so that you can get the sound of this thing down. Here we go. So we have E diminished to G minor to B flat major to F major. E, G, B flat major. It's a B flat major 7 to F major. Just an F major triad resolving down to E. Now I kind of hesitate to say E diminished because I'm not actually playing the diminished fifth in the E chord. I was avoiding it because of the tension and where it wants to lead you to sonically, okay? So really I was just playing the E and the minor third of the E, but I was avoiding the diminished fifth of the E, okay? The B flat in the chord. Instead, to bring that Locrian sound out, I created a chord on B flat, the B flat major 7 chord. So once again, E, G, G minor, B flat major 7, F major, resolving back to E. Okay, so I'm just going to be playing around on this and take a listen and see if you can get an idea of the sound. Here we go. Give you kind of an idea. Sorry about the ding in there. I'll also note that I am using the same scale pattern as I did to show off a regular natural major. I'm just starting it a half step lower. Okay. I'm using the same pattern. I'm just starting one note lower in the scale pattern and calling that my tonic. Okay. And it's difficult to play over without sounding like you're resolving to a different key. That's kind of the struggle of Locrian. There you go. But hopefully that kind of gives you some idea of the sounds. At this point, we are through the natural major modes. I'll probably take a break from looking at modes of various kinds for a little bit. Go back into some different modes and talk about scales and pentatonics that you can use to play over some of the more common modes, Mixolydian, Dorian, etc., as well as look at some chord shapes and ways that things interact, etc., etc. But hopefully this has been enlightening for you, and you have a better sense of what Locrian sounds like. If you want to go try to find Locrian on your radio, good luck, because it's not used that often. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.